Today's episode is going to focus on topic sentences, which come up in our main body paragraphs of our analysing argument essays. So let's have a look at the purpose of topic sentences. Well, firstly and primarily, they are there to outline the arguments found within an article. They can also be used to connect arguments together, and they're also utilised to note any tonal shifts or stylistic shifts or even shifts or changes with audience and argument. So the first place to start in terms of connecting your arguments are definitely structure verbs. So these allow you obviously to connect the arguments together fluently. So we have a list of them here. The first column we can see verbs that we use for our first main body paragraph. So verbs like opens, begins, commences. So the first time you address a specific argument from a text, you might use one of these. For the remaining arguments, you might use the next column for arguments that come in the middle of a text. So verbs like continues, furthers, advances, develops, or subsequently as an adverb. And when analysing the final argument within an article, these verbs are really useful. Closes, ends, concludes, finishes, lastly, and ultimately are the two adverbs there. And these are really important to remember and have in your back pocket for when it comes to writing topic sentences. The other type of verb that we need to be acquainted with are argument verbs. And these are verbs which allow you to introduce arguments. So the two types we have here are when we have a really clear argument or when they're a little bit broader and we don't need to really specify as much. So for the really clear arguments, we might use, and again, these verbs come up a lot, don't they? Argues, asserts, and advocates, our 3A verbs. We really like those ones. They're really, really nice to use when it comes to introducing arguments. But you might also use verbs like challenges, critiques, promotes, or propounds. For those broader arguments, verbs that are really nice to use are outlines, highlights, depicts, and portrays, or suggests, claims, and explores. And once again, it's really important to build your own verb list and pick sort of your go-to verbs, ones that can be really used on a flexible basis. So, let's talk maths. Let's talk our topic sentence formula. What do we need? A little bit of addition. To start with, we need the author or the author's name. We need to add in the structure verb. We need to add our argument verb, and we need to add the argument. And when we add all those things up, you guessed it, we get our topic sentence. Look how neatly that working out is. We don't get to do too much working out in English, but that is perfect to me. But these are the features you need, and they combine to form a topic sentence. So let's put it into action now. Author plus structure verb by argument verb plus argument will give us a topic sentence. And this, as I said, is a bit of a template. Now, obviously, you don't want to stick to the same template for every single topic sentence, and we'll get to ways to do that a little bit later. But this is a really simple way, just so you can tick a couple of boxes. You tick the fact that you are connecting the arguments together through your structure verb, and you tick that box that says that you are outlining an argument and focusing on an argument. And as we said previously, this section of the course used to be called language analysis, where language was a feature, but we're really focusing on argument now, and examiners are going to be looking for that. So these topic sentences are so important, just to remind the examiner that you are analysing and outlining the arguments. So let's have a look at an example using this little template. Nung continues by asserting that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. So Nung is the author, continues is the structure verb, asserting is the argument verb, and the fact that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion, that is our argument. Add them all up together and we get a really nice topic sentence. But as we mentioned before, we do also want to have a look at shifts. So, things like tone, style, argument, and even audience can shift within a text, and it's really important that we note this. we know from previous examinations that examiners and markers are looking for this. Students that look at the big picture. They're not just going through the article thinking about the arguments and the language. They're thinking about these broader concepts of tone and audience and how they work together. So here are some templates for sentences that include shifts. And the first one has to do with tone. So shifting to a more attacking manner, author argues, argument. The next one focuses on audience. Targeting a more progressive audience, author asserts, argument. The next one looks at style. So employing a more straightforward approach, author advocates, argument. And the last one, after arguing previous argument, author subsequently focuses on aspect by asserting. So here we can see those 4 separate concepts and how we introduce those particular shifts. And again, it's really important that you use your topic sentence to show the examiner, again, that you're thinking about this argument from a holistic sense. So, as I mentioned before, we don't always want to rely on that formula for every single topic sentence because that will make our writing pretty boring. So here is the same argument delivered in 8 different ways. Nung continues by asserting that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. In asserting that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion, Nung employs a more sympathetic tone. Targeting public transport users, Nung continues by asserting that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. Shifting to a more sympathetic tone, Nung suggests that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. To continue her letter, Nung asserts that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. After addressing taxpayers, Nung targets public transport users in arguing that free public transport will eradicate fare evasion. Following her attack on the ticketing system, Nung targets fare evasion as a reason to implement free public transport. What you'll note there is essentially the argument remains the same. That phrase, free public transport will eradicate fare evasion, is there in all of them. But look at the way they begin. The first one uses that formula we spoke about before. The author, and then our structure verb, by, and then our argument verb. The second, in asserting, it starts with the argument as the first section, and then the shift in tone comes second. The third one, about targeting public transport users, immediately begins with addressing the audience, or perhaps even a shift in the audience. And the fourth one addresses the tone shift, and you'll notice that it's very similar to the second one. We've just switched the clauses within the sentence. The fifth one, to continue her letter, talks about the text type and uses the text type as a way to introduce an argument. The penultimate topic sentence, after addressing taxpayers, Nung targets public transport users, shows a shift in audience. And the third one, following her attack on ticketing system, here we have a connection between arguments. So think about these sentences. There's 7 of them here. What kind of shifts do we have here, if any? Have a think about it. I'll tell you the answers in a moment. How'd you go? Well, the first one, obviously, there is no note of the shift. For the second one, however, it suggests a shift in tone. The third one shows us that there has been a shift in audience, while the fourth one, much like the second one, explores a shift in tone. The fifth one is more so just continuing through the text type, but with the penultimate one, we have a clear shift in audience, mentioning the previous audience as well as the audience for the next argument, and the final one shows that connection between the previous argument and the current one. So with comparative paragraphs, when it comes to introducing similar or opposing arguments, we use a similar framework in doing that. So really, every comparative paragraph really has sort of two topic sentences. Make sure you use your comparative connectives to assist with this, and if you want more information on that, I suggest you look at the main body paragraph video. Here are some sample topic sentence templates. In contrast, author 2 advocates argument. In contrast is our connective. While author 1 argues argument, author 2 conversely asserts that argument. And the final one for when we have got an audience that is quite similar. Similarly, author 2 addresses audience in arguing argument. Let's have a look at this sample paragraph. See if you can pick out the two sentences that outline the topic sentences, and I'll read it to you. Cale continues by placing responsibility on lawmakers by arguing that they should be implementing more harm minimisation strategies. He lists the potential substances found in illicit drugs, including bath salts, cornstarch, soap, and detergent, informing parents who lack knowledge on the issue and evoking fear within them for their own children's safety. In addition, Cale embeds an expert opinion from the Australian Festivals Association, which repeats the phrase harm minimisation several times. By softening the depiction of pill testing, Cale highlights the importance pill testing can play in preventing further death and encourage parents to view the strategy as vital in stopping the recent outbreak. While the editorial also specifies the potential substances found in illicit drugs, the Herald Sun conversely argues that pill testing legitimises the dealers and organised crime. Labelling pill testing advocates as parasites, the editorial attacks their arguments and compares drug taking with murder. The aggressive tone elicits fear within parents and encourages them to turn their anger on the drug liberalisation lobby, who lack proper foresight on the issue. So try and make note of the sentences that introduce arguments and any shifts that they mention. So here we can see the opening sentence. Cale continues by placing responsibility on lawmakers in asserting that they should be implementing more harm minimisation strategies. Here we can see there is a clear focus on audience here and on lawmakers. The second sentence we have that connective while, so while the editorial also specifies the potential substances found in illicit drugs, they conversely argue that pill testing legitimises the dealers and organised crime. In this sense, they're comparing the same language and the same argument that's being used. However, they're using that information for different reasons, for different arguments. So what are our key takeouts from today's lesson on topic sentences? Well, the first one is to use them to introduce arguments. Secondly, use verbs to assist with this. I'd also encourage you all to build a verb bank. And lastly, address any shifts in tone, style, argument, or audience, and use your topic sentences to do this.